Welcome back to our passionate listeners, as well as our first-timers. I am Rob Cossack, a.k.a.
The Wealth Whisperer.
And this is Money Talks. On today's episode, we'll be covering one of the most powerful, but also misunderstood financial tools available, the Roth IRA. Everyone's heard about the Roth IRA. Many people have been told they're the end-all be-all, but like everything else in financial planning, it must be personalized. Roths are very situational in terms of when they're the best fit or when it makes sense to take advantage of them. There are many situations where Roth could be especially beneficial. Our goal today is to walk through these scenarios so that if one of them applies to you now or in the future, you'll understand how a Roth can work for you to build and maximize your wealth. As you've all heard, and it is so true, it's not how much you make, it's how much you get to keep. So a lot of today we'll talk about taxes. I brought in someone with very significant experience in this arena. He's the architect of it all, Brett Roth. Just kidding. But his last name really is Roth. And for the record, the Roth IRA was created by Senator William Roth in 1997. But anyway, we're going to discuss, we're going to challenge, we're going to banter. So put your Roth hat on and we're going to have ourselves some fun. Let's dive in.
Thanks, Rob. Truly appreciate the opportunity here. And just to let everybody know, I do get a small cash stipend from every single Roth IRA that's set up. So thank you all.
As you should.
Absolutely. I appreciate that. There are some significant reasons that the Roth IRA is very advantageous. It comes down to diversification. And what it comes down to is diversification of registrations. Every time the government comes out with a tax code, and you know it, out all the time, probably came out with 3 today.
Or change thereof.
Yep. It gives people like us and what we do for a living an opportunity to determine where each piece fits in the overall long-term strategy.
Mm-hmm.
Because as you said, Rob, recently, the goal isn't just to be as rich as you can. It's to be as rich as you can after the government takes its slice. That being said, I'm pretty psyched about this. There's a lot of myriad of ways that the Roth can fit in a substantial manner.
I would totally agree. So I'm really looking forward to diving into all the different strategies and then evaluating them accordingly. But before we get into the strategies, I think a breakdown as to the specs of a Roth will be helpful for our audience to remember when we start to dive into the weeds. Can you talk a little about the specs that we should always keep in the back of our head as we evaluate strategies?
Great, Rob. Thank you for that. So I'm going to discuss a variety of specs right now, but we're going to go through all of them as the presentation goes well.
Okay.
So I want to hit on some of the basic ones. So a lot of people think, well, this is for retirement. You're putting in after-tax money. That's what you're doing. But can you ever touch that before retirement?
My IRA or 401k, I know I can't because I'd be taxed and penalized.
Yeah, absolutely. Here's the beauty about the Roth. So if you put it, let's just give an example. Let's just say for the next 5 years, you put in $7,000 a year. That's $35,000. And it grows to 60. Okay. I know. And let's just say for whatever reason, you need to get that $35,000 out for whatever reason. You can take that money out, the original principal that you put in, tax and penalty free. It's a very unique, whereas you mentioned you get taxed and penalized from an IRA and 401k.
Okay.
Here you don't with the principal. Now the earnings, you cannot.
Okay.
You cannot do that.
So the earnings, in essence, are locked away for retirement. I mean, I don't love the idea of this, but I'm sure a lot of people do because, ideally where I come from, if you're saving for retirement, hopefully it is. But they give me a little bit of it out in some unique circumstances. But the principle you're saying that you could infiltrate your retirement account at any time in the form of a Roth if it's the money that you put in.
That is correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Another one, there's what's called the 5-year rule.
Okay.
And what that means is once you open a Roth IRA, you cannot take any of the earnings out before 5 years. So let me give an example. Let's just say you're 59 years old. You open up your first Roth IRA.
All right.
Technically, at 59 and a half, you can take that out tax penalty free. You have to actually wait for 5 years before you can tap into any of the growth.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Is it on each dollar? Like if I make contributions 20 years ago, or once I have it open for 5 years, it doesn't really matter.
It doesn't matter.
Oh,
It's on it. So you have to wait the 5 years. And like I said, before the 5 years, you can always get to your principal, as I mentioned.
okay.
Yeah. Another one is for first-time home buyers. Let's give that same example. Well, you bought $35,000. It's now at $60,000. You want to get a house. So technically, you can take out that $35,000.
Yep.
But what you can also do with the earnings, you can take $10,000 out for a first-time home buyer. So the government's giving you a little bit more that you can take.
Just tax free, like a Roth distribution rate a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Now, is that encouraged?
I hope not.
It's not, but life happens.
Yeah, and the price of homes, we know where they ventilate and the struggle that is for the average 25, 30, 35-year-old. You may have heard just released this week that the average age of the first-time home buyers actually gone all the way up to the age of 40. So that's another whole topic.
Yep.
Back to the specs on Roths.
Absolutely. So obviously it grows tax deferred, gets it tax free. Let's just say, unfortunately, something happens. You pass away. We're all going to. That money goes to the heirs tax free as well.
Okay.
So that's just another benefit. If you had an IRA and they inherit it, they don't have to pay taxes on that.
Okay.
So once again, another benefit of the Roth IRA.
All right. So if I'm a wealthy individual and I pass away and I have $1 million in my IRA and I have one child, my spouse is no longer with me, I leave it to that one child and they get $1 million from my IRA, what will taxation look like for that person?
It's going to look pretty hefty. It does depend what tax bracket they're in, where they're at in their life.
Okay.
But regardless, they're going to be taxed on it. And normally when you're working and potentially taking out money, that could be upwards of 20, 30% taxes.
In this example that I gave, I'd rather be specific. Is this person above and beyond anything that they earn from their job? They now all of a sudden are going to have an excess of $100,000 a year, right?
Right.
Wow. Okay. And so you're saying if I would leave a Roth $1 million, does the inheritor have to take distributions from my, say it's, of course, most people may not know, but whether it's an IRA or a Roth, if you have a spouse when you pass away and you leave it to your spouse, they in essence can roll it into their own. So there are no R&Ds for spouses. So for a non-spouse, same scenario that I just gave, I leave $1 million to my only child and my spouse is no longer with me. Do they have to take these R&Ds?
Yes, Rob, they do have to take R&Ds and they have to do it within a 10-year period.
Okay.
Is what it is. But let me give you an example on the tax side. So let's just say that $1 million was strictly IRA money. Okay.
So the example I was giving before.
Yes. By the time 10 years rolls around, you might have between $500,000 and $700,000 in taxes going to the government. Yeah.
Sorry, I almost got sick.
Let me give you another scenario. You give $1 million in Roth money. Still have to take out in 10 years. But let me think of the taxes. See, carries 7, 4 divided by pi, 6. It's 0. There are no taxes in the Roth. Isn't it a beautiful thing?
That's a beautiful thing. Good.
Yeah. Another spec is age limits.
Okay.
Generally speaking, if you are older, at 73 or older and you're still working, you cannot do an IRA.
Okay.
But after 75, there's folks that work and retired. Now, so hopefully it's because they want to.
Okay.
Not because they need to. But then those folks can actually take after-tax money, put it in the Roth, and then it grows tax deferred.
All right. So let me understand what you're saying. Most people sitting out there are agreeing with you that unfortunately, most people that are 75 years old that are still working are working because they need the money. So they probably don't have a lot of investment money out there.
Fair enough.
But for what we do for a living, most of the people that we're sitting with on a daily basis that are still earning money in their 70s, and it's not a small percentage of them. Some of them have a skill set that happens to tend towards allowing them to do something they're passionate about in retirement and still generating some income at the same time.
Yep.
You're saying that they're allowed to make a Roth contribution.
Yes.
Okay. You mentioned something about taking from a taxable account. So if I can clarify that, I would think that most people in their 70s, even our clients, are taking some distributions.
They absolutely are.
And they probably have IRAs, so they're taking required distributions, even if they don't want them.
Yeah.
Even if they don't want them.
Government wants their money.
Okay. So I guess there's two different things they can do. If they're getting an RMD significantly above and beyond what it is that they need, you're saying they could take some of that RMD money and do what with it?
And they can put it into the Roth IRA.
Okay. Well, let's say that they, between the few dollars that they're making working part-time and the distributions that they're making from their IRAs, that's covering the needed expenses. So there's not a lot of excess money that's laying around.
Right.
You mentioned about funding it from a taxable account. Why would one do that?
Well, obviously in a taxable account, you're getting taxed on all the dividends. Let me give you an example. Let's just say you have a stock that's paying dividends.
Okay.
And so each year you're getting taxed on that. If you actually put that money into the Roth, you're no longer getting taxed on those dividends. And yet it continues to grow tax deferred. And at the end comes out tax-free.
And tax-free. Very cool. More specs?
Yeah. Well, let me give you the big one is how much can you put in?
Okay.
As an individual person right now for 2025, you can do $7,000. There's also what's called the catch-up. Not ketchup, catch-up.
Okay.
That is another $1,000. So in this year, 2025, it's 7,000 or 8,000. If you're over 50 years old, you can do the 8.
Okay. Can I do a Roth 401k? So you're mentioning these contribution limits. Those were just the IRA. In the past 15 years, maybe 20 years, they came out with the Roth 401k. I know a lot of employers were slower to implement into it, but I think most plans now offer the Roth 401k.
They do.
What are the limits on those?
So right now for 2025, it's
the same as the traditional?
It is the same as traditional.
Well, say it's 24/5. I didn't know exactly what it is.
Right. And then
It changes every year.
yeah,
I'm sure I'm darn close.
and then there's the catch-up as well. So for 2025, it's around $31,000 that you could put into the Roth 401k.
Okay. All right. I guess we'll talk more about when that comes in. Not 6-7, but Roth versus traditional.
Yep.
From a 401k perspective. That'll be an interesting concept.
Yeah, that'll be a strategy we're talking about later.
Okay. We good on specs?
We are good on specs.
Okay. All right, Brent. When people are deciding between Roth, pre-tax or taxable accounts, so we got 3. Roth registration, pre-tax contributions, things like IRAs and 401ks, and just funding most people know is a brokerage account, an after-tax account. Yeah. How should they think about the differences in taxation and why having multiple registrations matters?
Fascinating question. That is really the premise of this entire podcast.
Okay.
But let's just talk about one scenario in retirement. You want to have different buckets of money. For instance, the 3 you mentioned, after tax, IRA, and Roth IRA. And the reason is you can manipulate those in retirement to have the government take the least amount of money from you.
Okay. So everybody knows tax brackets. Most brackets are progressive, right?
Right.
Meaning, the more you make, that you'll pay this much tax up to this point, and then above and beyond,
You pay a little bit more, right?
exactly. What other taxations exist besides general, from a federal tax bracket perspective? What are things that are unique to retirement or just unique to taxations above and beyond the general? I'm in the 12% or I'm in the 22%.
Yeah. There's a couple of things that come into play there. One of them is called the net interest income tax.
Okay.
Okay. It's for folks that, generally speaking, the single person, I think it's 125, 150. And then for married joints, about 250. If you have it above that, you actually have to pay a surtax of 3.8%.
Just on qualified dividends, right?
No, interest income.
Oh, geez.
Exactly. It's not.
How much of that gets counted in a Roth?
I'm going to go with 0.
Okay.
So that's another reason to do it. You're not going to get taxed on that.
Okay. we all hate that guy, FICA.
Passion, with a passion.
Okay, well, he got married, and when you turn 65, for most people, he goes away, which is nice.
Yes, he does.
So then his wife steps up. Can you tell me a little about his wife?
His wife is Irma.
Ah,
Yeah, we don't like Irma.
okay.
And let me tell you why. So what Irma is, it's an additional premium that you have to pay on your Medicare. Okay, so everybody,
So Medicare is not free, but
it is not.
okay.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's around 185.
For everybody, like if I made $1 a year, I would still have to pay that.
You absolutely would.
Okay.
Absolutely would.
Yep.
So it's based upon your income.
Okay.
And so if you have, right now for joint people, it's around $212,000.
Mm-hmm.
But the good thing about the Roth is when you take money on that, it doesn't affect it. So therefore, what happens is,
Or he may not have it either. Yeah.
yeah, if you make more than those dollar figures, you get an additional surcharge on your Medicare premium.
How about something that is maybe now even more meaningful and Trump's no tax on Social Security? Is Social Security actually tax-free?
It is not.
Okay. So how does how much you pay in taxes as a retirement impact your ability to get a benefit to help with your Social Security tax?
So what it is on Social Security is based upon the amount of money you're bringing in.
Mm-hmm.
They can actually
Take away how I think it works is everybody gets $6,000 once they turn 65 as an extra addition to their standard deduction. So a married couple would have their standard deduction go up by $12,000.
right. So
But if I had too much income, do I still get that deduction?
you don't.
Okay,
You don't.
so another reason to be very tax sensitive, not because if you start worrying about these things at 65,
Right.
can you
No, you cannot fix it.
no, you need to be worrying about this way.
That's right. In your 60s and in your 50s. And that's where we have found it.
I'd say in your 20s. I'd say literally in your 20s, you want to start diversifying registrations.
Absolutely.
And also,
And let's talk a little bit about it.
okay,
Somebody who's in their 20s. You're thinking, how much are they making? They're making a decent amount. Maybe they just got out of college. Is that the most money they're ever going to make in their life?
hopefully not.
Hopefully not. So at that point, you're probably in the lowest tax bracket you're ever going to be in
Okay,
until, frankly, retirement.
all right.
So the beauty about that is you can use pre-tax money and fund the IRA, or you can use after-tax money to fund the Roth IRA. Your taxes are a little lower here, but when you're in your future, you're going to be taxed higher.
Let me give you some numbers. Let's say that we have a traditional family, late 20s, early 30s. One of the spouses is waking up every day going to work. The other one has the harder job and staying home with the kid or kids. And the one that's going to work is, let's say, the salary with bonus is $120,000 a year. Okay. With the standard deduction, what tax bracket is that family in?
They're in the 12% bracket.
They're in a 12% bracket.
Yeah.
Okay. Do we hope that this family is going to spend, to a certain extent when we're younger, we sometimes want to save the world and think, oh, I wouldn't mind giving, if we could help these people and that people. And they're going to have that opportunity because it's very likely in the future they're going to be in a higher tax bracket than 12%. So this is a unique time in their lives that they may not spend much, if ever, of the rest of their life in a 12% bracket.
Right.
Okay. What should they be doing? Pre-tax or?
They should be doing Roth 100%.
Yep.
Yeah. It's a no-brainer. Once again, it's after-tax money, but when it grows, tax deferred, and then it's tax-free at the end.
Yep. As much as good as a job that we can do for our clients from a management of the taxation standpoint, that particular family is in a 12% tax bracket now, but probably will never be again. All right. So in that instance, if they're deferring money into a Roth and they're only missing out on deferral of 12%, and when they extract the money later on, it's tax-free that otherwise would have been at 22%. If they put in $6,000 or $7,000, that's $600 or $700 that is now going to grow over 30 years completely tax-free. That's money that otherwise the government would have gotten up their mind. So I just imagine what that number looks like.
The government takes enough from them.
Okay.
We don't need to give them any more.
All right. Let's now talk about, on the flip side. I'm the example I'm going to give today, not much different than the average family in their 50s. Say we got both spouses working, the kids, they're empty nesters.
Right.
They're making more money than they'd ever made in their lives.
Yes. Yep.
And that being said, there's a large percentage of the families out there that are paying 32% in taxes or above.
Right.
Actually won't be paying that high of taxes in retirement. All right. Should that family be doing pre-tax or Roth?
That family should be doing pre-tax.
Okay.
And the reason is, think about it, they're in the 32, 35, 37 bracket. Chances are they're going to be in the 22 or 24 retirement. If they can get 15% more off their money by contributing to pre-tax, they should do it.
So you're saying, you're giving the extreme example because there is a tax bracket called 37.
There is.
Okay. So you're talking 37 to 22. Wow. Yeah. That's a very powerful tool.
Absolutely.
And unfortunately, that's the same example that people that we're not going to talk about this today, but some of you have heard, especially those in your 50s, that starting next year, your catch-up contributions will have to be done in Roths. Government is finding ways to tackle some extra money from us. All right. I have here questions on advanced strategies that I'd like you to go into a little bit of detail on a one-on-one basis. I'm going to start with something that a lot of people haven't even heard of. And some of them I'm going to mention, I'm going to bet 90+% of people have not heard of. Backdoor Roth. What's a backdoor Roth? I know not a lot of people can do them.
Yeah.
I know that you and other staff members that work, in our organization are doing backdoor Roths for clients. Who can do a backdoor Roth and why is it potentially advantageous?
Okay. What a backdoor Roth is there are certain income levels for the Roth IRA where you cannot contribute to them.
Okay.
So if you are in that category, there's the back door. And what that means is you can, instead of putting in the Roth, you can put it into an IRA. But there's one specific rule about this, is you can't have any other IRAs there. Like if you rolled over an IRA or you started one on your own, you can't do this. But if this is your only account, you can literally put, let's just say it's 7,000 in.
Okay.
And immediately convert it to a Roth IRA. Therefore, it's all after tax money. But if you kept it in the IRA, remember, you're going to pay taxes on it at the end. If you convert it right now, there's no taxes. It now grows tax deferred and tax free.
All right. So you're not eligible for the Roth IRA because
Of income limits.
you're in the income limits that have been set. So as long as you do not have an IRA, and the reason being that if you had, you could do it, but you would never want to do it. And the reason being is if you had other IRAs, then when you convert it, it would be the biggest tax mess you could ever imagine. You have pre-tax and post-tax, and this is not what the podcast is going to be about, but we can have a whole podcast about it. So that's why you would not want to do it if you had other IRAs. So you do not have any other IRAs. You're putting your money in. You've not earned a dime. So when you convert it, there's no tax implication thereof. So literally what you did is you did what is known as a post-tax IRA contribution, which everyone is allowed to do, and then you immediately converted to a Roth, and indirectly, you just made a Roth contribution.
Absolutely.
Pretty darn cool. Okay. The mega backdoor.
Oh, you've heard of that.
I heard of it. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on it because, very few people even have access to it.
Right. What it is that's through 401ks.
Okay.
And your company would have to offer that. And what it is you get, so as I said before, you can put in up to $30,000 a year Roth 401k. What this says is you can take after-tax money upwards of $30,000 to $40,000, put it into your Roth 401k.
Mm-hmm.
But the company A has to let you put after-tax money in it.
Oh, yeah.
B, they have to have the ability to convert it right away. It's a beautiful thing, but frankly, it's not going to touch a lot of folks on this particular podcast.
Okay.
But it's still pretty cool.
All right. This is new. The 529 to the Roth.
Yes.
This actually would impact a reasonably large percentage of the population, of the investor population.
Right. So everybody's familiar with 529s. Those are saving vehicles that normally are run by the states for college savings.
Okay.
Let's just say you've accumulated a couple $100,000 for Johnny.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going through school, you're paying his bills, and at the end, he got some scholarships, and there's about $30,000 left in his Roth IRA. You don't have any other citizens.
It's 529.
It's 529. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah. So in his 529, they don't have any other siblings. So that money, if you take it out, you're going to get hit with penalties and taxes if you just spend that money. What the government said you could do recently is they said they can actually take that money and convert it or roll it into Roth IRAs. So it actually is starting a nice retirement plan for the young man.
Okay, that's made 529s a little bit more attractive to the masses, because I know so often we'll have clients that, have an only child, or they have a family where one child's already out of college, the other one has not yet gone, and they're asking me how much they should put in the 529s. I'm like, I'm just not sure. We got to figure out, how much it's going to cost. Well, who that knows how much it's going to cost? I mean, you have private schools, you have public schools. The cost of education could be all over the map.
Yeah, absolutely.
So in this particular instance, it potentially will give you a little bit more flexibility. Using the word convert, I know that's the word they use, but I'm pretty sure that's not how it works. Do you know how it actually works?
Yeah.
How do you get it from? It's not as easy as their conversion lies.
So there's a couple rules around it.
Okay.
The 529 has to be open for 15 years.
Oh, okay.
And you can't just do it in one fell swoop. It's based upon the guidelines of the yearly contributions, which I mentioned now are $7,000.
Okay.
So let's just go with the assumption they have $35,000 left.
Mm-hmm.
That is the maximum that you can roll into the Roth.
Okay.
So you would have to do that every year, $7,000 for the next 5 years.
Okay.
And you have to have earnings. So obviously you're hoping after school they're working.
Okay.
And they're making more than $7,000.
Yep.
And then therefore they can do that over the next 5 years. And in 5 years, they just started a $35,000 retirement plan that will never be taxed.
All right. So if we're talking about kids and kicking off future retirement savings for them, what's a custodial Roth?
Those are for our youngsters that are under 18.
Okay.
And what that means is you have to open an account. You open it in their name, but you have to be the custodian because they're under 18 years old.
Okay.
They have to have earned income. And it can't just be getting it from the grass. I mean, you're cutting grass or shoveling driveways.
I think actually it can, but you'd have to be able to document.
You would absolutely have to document it. But generally speaking, if you have earned income, and even think about this, let's just say you have an infant or 1 or 2 year old, they're doing commercials for baby formula or whatever. They're getting earned income.
Hey,
they could start that. They could start that right then and there. And just think about that. Age 2, they're retired at 65. Those contributions, it would be exponentially grown. And it would be a beautiful end of a retirement plan if they started that early.
That's good. I bet a lot of the audience today has been saying, when the heck is the topic of true Roth conversions going to come into play? Well, you know what? They didn't come into play right now. When Roths were first introduced, as most of you would know, most people that work within this industry because they're a salesperson. They're not a finance person. They were hired because they know people and potentially they can get people to bring in money, or they can convince people to hand over money. So when the Roths were first introduced, the whole concept of the Roth conversion became a big sales tactic.
Right.
So Roth conversions are nice, but they are so situational. Okay. Can you give a couple of examples where a Roth conversion could potentially be appropriate?
Right. Let me give you one. We have recently with a client, younger client, 25 years old. They had a job. Actually, let's roll it back. Let's just say they're still in school, maybe medical school or something like that, where they made $10,000-$20,000 in the original job and they rolled it over. Look at an IRA a few years ago. Now they're still in school. They're not in a high tax bracket. Do you think, especially?
So you're talking to somebody who's doing an advanced degree like medical school or...
Fair enough.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or master's program or something like that where they're actually taking time off from working.
Yes.
Got it.
Absolutely. So obviously they might be in a 0% tax bracket. Well, guess where they're going to be in 10, 20, 30 years?
That person's going to be at a very high tax.
Or he's 7% profitable that we
Yeah.
talked about. So if they could actually convert it right now, pay the taxes at a very low rate, have the thing grow for the next 20, 30 years, tax-free. That's one scenario for the younger folks.
Okay.
Let me give you another scenario. Folks that, if you're obviously successful, you have kids that are successful. All right. And sometimes
Historically, that's something I've learned.
yeah. I mean, I had
Successful parents raise successful kids.
absolutely. I mean, I have a couple and they're making more than me. So the beauty about doing conversion, let's just say you're in the 24% tax bracket and your kids are in the 37% tax bracket. So obviously I could do conversions for you, for the child, and I'll pay the taxes at 24, but you're doing them a solid because if they got taxed on that money at the end.
CRDs we were talking about earlier. If I'm going to leave them $1 million and they're going to get $1 million and they're already in a high tax bracket.
Right.
And when they take those RMDs out over 10 years, they're going to pretty much pay 37% from dollar one.
Absolutely.
Wow, that's ugly. So in this particular instance, you're saying that you strategically, in looking at your client's taxes, may say, hey, look, we could do a small Roth conversion, still keep you in the 12, but more realistic, it would be somebody where you're like, 24% brackets for married couples go up to what, about $400,000? Yeah. So in this particular instance, not many retirees have $400,000. Even wealthy retirees, a large majority of them do not have $400,000. So they could do a conversion at a 22 or 24% bracket, give it to the kid. The kid then, when they pass away, the kid inherits the Roth tax-free versus if they had inherited the IRA, they'd pay 37%.
Absolutely.
So you're, as you said, you're taking one for the team or taking one for the kid.
Absolutely.
And so your family is probably paying 13% less money, less tax than government.
Absolutely.
Giving less money to the government's a good thing.
It is a good thing. I'm agree.
Yeah, I hope we don't share this podcast. That's why I'm talking a lot lower.
Yeah.
Brett, really appreciate you joining us today and sharing your insight.
And
Always good to have someone who actually lives and breathes this stuff. When it comes down to it, the Roth isn't some magic bullet. It's just smart planning. It's about giving yourself more control over your future, especially when it comes down to, obviously, a theme of the Roth is taxes. There's real power in knowing where your money sits, how it grows, and when you pay the tax bill, or if possible, avoid the tax bill. And look, everyone's situation is different. What makes sense for one person might not for the next.
Okay.
That's why it's so important to build this into a bigger plan, not treat it like a one-off decision. Bottom line, the Roth gives you options. In a world where the rules keep changing, options are everything. Thanks again for turning into Money Talks with
The Wealth Whisperer.
I'm Rob Kosick, and see you next time.